My name is Matjasic, a convicted European of Slovenian origin, and now I work and live in Barcelona at the Open Society Initiative for Europe, part of Open Society Foundations. Since 2013, I've been focusing on supporting civil society organizations and citizens fighting for more accountable and better Europe through providing them support in European elections related work, reclaiming family values work, fighting for marriage equality, or more recently in issues such as whistleblowing, right to protest, and civic space in Western Europe. Prior to joining OSF, I've been active in the field of youth work myself, namely for almost 12 years. I was passionate about being part of the European Federalist movement as a young European Federalist. I was a youth trainer and a facilitator, and I ended my youth work career, so to speak, as president of the European Youth Forum from 2011 to 2014, when I was fighting for the rights of young people and their organizations. When I started my activism in the early 2000s, the EU and most of its member states were renowned for its values and principles which uphold human rights and democracy. However, democracy, which is the power of the people etymologically speaking, falls short of achieving the ideal of an independent egalitarian society. Democracy, like society, is evolving constantly. Democracies in Europe have been faced with numerous challenges over the past decade. Just think about the increasing political polarization, the closing democratic space, the increased mass surveillance, a changing information ecosystem, popular disillusionment with representative politics and democratic institutions, and the increasingly assertive authoritarian tendencies across the continent. There is widespread recognition of the fact that democracy is under pressure across the globe. Recently, we have been faced with contradictory movements which have both opened or expanded and closed democratic spaces. Classic forms of democratic action like voting, political party, and trade union involvement are generally regressing, whilst civic participation is evolving, not regressing. This can be in the forms of citizens' assemblies, innovative ways of doing protest, digital activism, or what those of us having been or are in the youth work know more, engagement in youth civil society for a longer period of time. Other recent changes have further jeopardized democratic vitality and deserve our attention. I'm speaking about people's mistrust of democracy and institutions, the ramifications of the current COVID-19 invoked health emergency, the infringements of the right to protest, the crackdowns on civil society and critical voices, the threats against the independence of the judiciary or of the press, extensions of state of emergency measures and abuse of those measures, or the more blatant attacks on the women's right to decide. This situation is cause of genuine concern for European democracy. Closing civic space has had a disproportionately negative impact on young people's exercise of their basic civil rights and their well-being in general, as well as the functioning of their representative youth organizations. Therefore, I was happy to see European Youth Forum Safeguarding Civic Space for Young People in Europe, which provides an overview of the main challenges that youth organizations face, including some striking findings, such as youth organizations facing major hurdles in obtaining information from government sources. 1 out of 8 youth organizations experiencing difficulties in organizing or participating in public assemblies. 1 out of 5 experience governmental interference in the functioning of the organization. 1 out of 4 also reports undue restrictions, while 1/3 experience barriers to foreign funding. About 1/3 of youth organizations across Europe face difficulties when trying to participate in policy deliberation and decision-making processes, meaning youth's voice is directly taken out of the important decisions that are made about them. And with about 1 out of 10 of them almost excluded from these policy-making processes. While young people might engage less in traditional politics compared to older generations, they are often at the forefront of protests, they would participate in social movements, and they take up volunteering. Youth organizations provide quality citizenship education and foster the development of vital competencies for participation, such as critical thinking, media literacy, digital literacy, democratic awareness, public speaking, and so on and so on. These skills enable young people, like they did myself, not only to speak up for themselves, but also to stay active citizens in society later on. That's why, because of the importance of democratic youth civic spaces to young people's overall well-being and access to rights, as well as their contribution to the health of our democracies in general, safeguarding youth civic spaces should remain high on the agenda of activists and policymakers. How to do this? By securing and fostering an enabling environment, promoting inclusion and equity, and by providing flexible funding or financial support to civil society, but not just any kind of civil society. Let's not forget that there's some uncivil civil society out there that we want to avoid providing more support to. Rather, we should focus on those that embody the spirit of an open, democratic society where everyone is equal and where differences of opinion are welcomed instead of repressed. Thank you very much, and looking forward to our panel discussion.